Namaste and hello everyone. Today is the day 3 in the journey of knowing about ourselves, the soul. And I'll be continuing from the previous topic, that is evidences about the existence of soul in the light of neurological researches. And today we'll be discussing about the soul's location. So let's get started. So people generally think that consciousness and thought are an epiphenomenon of the brain. They believe that all stimuli go to the brain as electrical impulses, and it is the brain which is working like a computer is giving response in the form of thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Some says that thought and consciousness are the result of the brain and body chemistry. Little do they realize that consciousness is altogether a different kind of existence to which laws of chemistry and physics do not apply. Thoughts can neither be produced by any physical or chemical actions nor can be produced by any form of physical energy. Thought cannot be measured by any physical or chemical means. It cannot be quantified. Taking an example, you all know about this, the sight of falling an apple which Newton saw, or of the shaking of the lid of boiling kettle which James Watt saw. Biologically and neurologically speaking, the sight of the apple or the moving lid would have reached the retina via the optic nerves and then to the visual cortex, and that it would have got integrated to give the experience of a picture. That's it. It would not have gone beyond that, isn't it? If the brain had been fed like a computer with some instructions, one would have like a robot pick the apple or remove the lid. That is all. The reaction of the sensor in the motor mechanism and the brain would not, in any case, it would not have been taken up upon itself in search for the solution of the riddle as Newton and the James Watt took upon themselves. It would have ended there. Just apple fell down and finished. Then why did they try to figure out the reason behind? For the laws of chemistry and the physics state that the reaction will be equal to the action. But in the examples of the apple and the lid, it is clear that there is something metaphysical entity who has her own will and is deciding to sustain the thought process and go beyond what the original physical stimulus warranted. Just think about it. So it can be seen that thoughts and consciousness are not like chairs and tables. They do not occupy space. Chairs and tables may deteriorate with the passage of time, but ideas and concepts may not get destroyed by the time. The more we use the chairs, cars, and tables, the more it gets worn out. But the more we think of the concept, the more it gets set, isn't it? So, thoughts, ideas, concepts, experience, and consciousness are the manifestations of a metaphysical form of energy. Moreover, latest researchers in the fields of the neurology and the brain sciences have established that without bringing in the concept of a non-physical soul in the brain, the explanations of the various brain function is incomplete. Let me tell you another Penfield's experiment which showed that cerebral cortex is not the seat of the mind. He showed that even massive removals of the cerebral cortex do not seem to completely abolish awareness, whereas small lesions in the brainstem produced irreversible coma. Penfield and another neuroscientist, Hernando Spion, have also pointed to the evidence from those unfortunate human beings who are born without any cerebral cortex and are actually called as anencephalic monsters in scientific jargon, because they are not capable of much learning and of understanding their environment. They just, like a child, they sleep and they are awake and then they cry for sometimes no reason. Similarly, like those babies, the case of the anencephalic monsters implies that while the two cerebral hemispheres are responsible for higher thought processes and for understanding the language code and expressing thought in language, these are not the seat of the consciousness of mind, for the consciousness in these anencephalic monsters is still that though they do not have any cerebral cortex. In other words, it means that a man can live and have consciousness even if he does not have the two cerebral hemispheres. Further, Penfield performed thousands of such experiments. He has documented them. He stimulated thousands of sites or points of the brain, and the stimulation of the motor cortex produced only the bodily movements. For example, the movement of a hand, but it did not produce any conscious effects. It just stimulated a mechanical or motor action, and the patient's consciousness felt that it was being done without his will, which means that conscious mind is not located in the motor cortex also. This also shows that the cerebral cortex and the motor cortex are only the instruments. Only remember, only the instruments. And the conscious being who uses them is different from this. So let's know where the location of the soul is. Penfield is known for his finding that memories can be activated by an electrode placed on the temporal lobe of some other part of the surface of the cortex. But actually, the locus of the memories was in the upper brainstem and the hypothalamus, which again indicates the presence of an entity there. Again, the stimulation of sensory areas of the cortex resulted in hearing, seeing, or feeling something, depending on which cortical area had it been stimulated. But the sensations which resulted from this were not well-knit perceptions like we normally have visions of tables, chairs, and cars. But rather, these sensations were only bits of perceptions, not well integrated, and like I have already said before, the locus of this seems to be somewhere near the brainstem. Further stimulation of the rest of the cortex, which is known as the uncommitted cortex, did not produce any conscious effects. All this leads one to the conclusion that the neocortex or the cerebral hemispheres are not the seat of the consciousness or mind, which, according to the available evidence, seems to be in or near the hypothalamus, which has connection with the thalamus and the brainstem. And similarly, the Mexican neurophysiologist Raul Hernandez Pian, through his experiments, came to the conclusion that the reticular activating system, which is in short called the RAS, of the brainstem, is a gate through which go the sensory impulses to the cortex, and that it is the regulator of attention. And we all know that attention and consciousness are closely related. If you are one of the students of psychology, you'll be knowing that attention is essential to all learning and experience, which is a work of consciousness or mind. And this too shows that mind consciousness or soul should be located in near the thalamus, near the upper part of the brainstem, which has the reticular activating system. These facts are then further proved by the experiments of the famous physiologist Dr. Sperry. So I hope you all have got some fair idea about the soul's existence and its location. And let me know by commenting down below with yes or no so that I would know whether you have understood properly or not. And also, if you have any queries regarding souls, then also you can ask me. I'll try my best to answer all. Thank you.